Good morning.
Good morning.
It's great to see all my lovely friends looking back at me. The energy in the room feels great. This is a very forward-thinking spiritual center to arrange a talk like this. There's a huge transformation going on in the world, and we are part of it. It feels electric. So I'm going to dive right in and start with a little history. I've been reading some ancient spiritual texts, and according to those writings, in the early 17th century, everyone was clairvoyant. And it was the creation of science that marked the shift when people started turning away from their inner guidance and started turning to an authority figure outside of themselves for answers to life's questions. And now, our whole society is kind of set up that way. Our education system, our healthcare system. I hope to inspire you today to reverse that and get back to your inner guidance and live an intuitive life. The way that I got into this field is that I wanted to learn about myself. I was born a highly sensitive child into a family with the least sensitive people on the planet. And I remember being around 5 years old, and when people would come to the house, when they were outside approaching the house, I could sense them coming. And being that age, I didn't have the vocabulary to really express what I was truly experiencing. So I said things that a little kid would say. I felt them coming and it didn't feel good. Why are you bringing them here? And this was the late 60s, early 70s, and having a highly sensitive child was just unheard of. So my family said things like, oh, nonsense. Don't speak that nonsense to me. So I learned to stay quiet. Nobody else was talking about it. And so I just kept what I was picking up to myself. And I lived that way. And by the time I reached my teenage years, I was completely overwhelmed by the world. I didn't want to leave the house. It made me feel overwhelmed and insecure. I didn't want to go to the mall. I didn't want to be in crowds. I didn't want to go to movies. I didn't want to be in class at school. And so I started cutting school. I started overeating. I started doing drugs. I was grasping at any coping mechanism I could come up with to deal with what I was feeling. And after being on drugs and overeating for a while, that didn't work. I just felt sick. So I just became a recluse. I started hiding from the world. I was an introvert extraordinaire. I'd leave the house to go to work, and then I'd come home and just peek out my window blinds. And I lived that way for several decades. And then one day when I was exercising, I got injured. And it was a life-altering injury. And now I'm temporarily differently abled. But when I was stuck in the corner of my living room, completely immobilized, unable to move, going through the dark night of the soul, that's when I heard it. That's when I heard the ancestral whisper of my inner voice. And she told me that my body broke down because I was not living in alignment with my true vibrational frequency. There you go. I was not being authentic. Well, when I heard that, I decided, you know what? I can't use my legs, but I've got my mind. And I'm going to figure out why I'm sensitive. And what does that look like for a highly sensitive perceiver to be authentic in the world? So I dove into the field of energy, physics, metaphysics, quantum physics, consciousness. And I finally got around to the field of intuition, and I've been fascinated by that subject ever since. My first question was, okay, well, when I was a little kid and I would sense people come into the house, was that instinct? What was that? Instinct is usually focused on survival of the physical body, and it's got an emotion behind it like fear, danger, whereas intuition is neutral and it's energetic and it feels affirming.
We're dropping here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So I want to make sure that we have this for everybody and everybody can hear well.
Wonderful, thank you.
There you go.
Intuition is a message that comes from the highest self. Now, Plato called it the higher self, and I shy away from using that term because people associate the higher self with God. But the highest self is a portion of our soul that remained in a higher realm just to guide us on our path to our highest potential and keep our body healthy while we do it. It's like she and he are throwing out little energetic, intuitive breadcrumbs, leading us along the way. And all we have to do is recognize those breadcrumbs. So I spoke about science a little bit earlier, and I believe a real scientist is intuitive. Einstein knew all about the intuition. And I found a quote by him, and it reads, "It's not the intellect that advances humanity. It's intuition, because intuition leads us to our purpose in life." Okay, so then I was like, all right, I'm getting messages from a portion of my soul in a higher realm. This is great. I have help. How did I miss those messages? Because I was getting them when I was a kid. What happened when I got injured? That was my next question. And as it turns out, we are all energy. Our physical body looks solid, but it's really just dense energy. And we have two energy message receivers in the brain. One is the hypothalamus and one is the pineal gland. And our spine is the antenna. And scientists have confirmed that the double helix in the DNA has magnetic properties. Our DNA, that's pretty much all of us, right? We were designed, our physical body was designed to attract energetic messages so that we can protect our human home and reach our purpose. Since all we are is energy, we also have an energy body. I think most people are familiar with the chakras, and I have a graphic. Great, it's right behind me. Each chakra is an energetic stargate that opens up to the cosmos and the universal field of intelligence. And it's no coincidence that these 7 are aligned along the spine. They're like little satellite dishes, drawing in energetic messages, working in tandem with our antenna. And we have more than these 7. We have 700 plus chakras. 700 little energy satellites drawing in information. If you consider Chinese medicine, every acupuncture location is a chakra. And what the acupuncturist is doing is, with that needle, the needle is serving as a little dedicated antenna. Because when we are sick or injured, our antenna and receivers aren't working properly. So she's trying to get information into every chakra and clear the blockage. That's what causes health. What blocks our flow, our meridians, our flow of chi? What blocks our chakras? Well, it's misaligned beliefs, like it's not okay to be highly sensitive in the world and just be myself. Or it's all the issues that we've experienced during our lifetime and we're still hanging on to a little bit. Or when our protective energy system starts getting compromised, other people's energy gets in. And that is not right for us. We have our own energy. All of those things block our energy and message receivers. Little by little, over time, and illness occurs. So in the field of intuition medicine, Qi is known as life force energy. And we all have our own life force energy signature to us. And what the chakras do, they gather up that life force energy and they radiate it out around us, forming a protective cocoon known as the aura. That's our physical bodyguard. It has healing properties. It's our spiritual skin. It's our early warning system that lets us know somebody else's energy is coming our way, and we have a choice whether or not we want to accept it or turn it away. So remember when I was a kid and unfamiliar energy was coming towards the house and I picked it up? My aura was healthy, it was big and formidable and working properly. And then fast forward 4 decades when I got injured, my aura was small. If I could read energy back then, it probably looked like Swiss cheese, right? All torn up, very paper thin with holes here and there. So here's an interesting side note about the aura. When you practice your intuition and you get to the point where you can actually see energy, if somebody is being dishonest with you, their aura jiggles. It becomes unstable. It looks like Jell-O. And if somebody is on drugs, you can see a little tic-tac-toe pattern in their aura. Now, when I witness that in somebody's energy body, I don't call them out. One, it's none of my business what other people's coping mechanisms are. But two, I stop for a minute and I silently observe the information I'm getting. And then I remember, I'm seeing a reflection of me. Because every time I didn't be authentically me, I was being dishonest with me and the world around me. And every time I couldn't cope, I turned to drugs. And so then I silently thank them for giving me that humble reminder. And I'm rooting for them. I hope that the next time I see them, I get to see a nice, healthy aura. You know, intuition lets us do that. It lets us see everyone as a soul, just trying to make it in this world like us. It takes the judgment out of it. Think about a world where nobody judges us. I want that. That's my dream. My notes went away for a second. Okay, here we go. Intuition is a survival skill. And I learned personally that when illness occurs, if you only focus on the physical body, your recovery will be temporary. You may think you fully recovered, but there will be a remainder like pain, limitation, stiffness, or you'll get an illness in some other area of the body because the imbalance in your energy body still remains. And all we are is energy. It's much more efficacious to work on preventing illness with a daily intuitive practice, or if you're like me, you were just starting out, to work on healing the energy body first, because then when you get to the physical body, it'll be easy, it'll take less time, and it'll be long-lasting. So a couple ways that I maintain intuitively my energy body and my physical body is that if I feel anger coming on, my second chakra, the one that was up there, the orange one, I dial that down, just like you would dial down a knob on a gas stove. I go from medium high all the way down to simmer. Because besides being a highly sensitive perceiver, I'm also an empath. And empaths tend to act like a sponge, to everybody else's emotions. And I don't want to do that. That'll make me sick. So before I leave the house, I dial down my second chakra, the orange one there. And then the fourth one, the green one, I dial that up to compassion so that I can be compassionate to whatever everyone else is going through, but not absorb it. Another thing I do, if I'm in conversation with somebody and I'm feeling like I'm starting to get angry or I'm starting to get emotional, I dial down that second chakra. I also bring my spirit fully into my body so that I am at 100% on my awareness when I go out into the world. I can recognize my intuitive messages. And when my spirit is in my body fully, I dial down my seventh chakra and keep it there. And there are some fun ways to use your intuition. When I go to the gym to do my physical therapy and I'm working out on a machine and I see the next machine and there's nobody on it, I will energetically put a force field around that machine and keep it free for when I get there and work out on it. And then if I'm getting ready to go on a trip, I will put an energetic boundary around my vehicle and I'll ground it. And I'll ground the vehicle, and then intuitively I'll paint the road gold all the way from the beginning of my trip to the end so I get there nice and safe. Now, all this talk about being sensitive, what if you're not sensitive? That was a question that I asked too. And all of this information completely applies to you because the latest research shows that only 3% of the world's population are highly sensitive perceivers. That means 97% are not sensitive. Yet we were all designed the same, and we all can live an intuitive life. Intuition is your birthright. Let's talk about some intuitive abilities that are available to you. Some people say there are 6. Some people say there are 21, and some people say there are 360. But today I'm only going to talk about a few in the interest of time, and I selected these because a couple of them you can start using today, right now. You know how to use them. And the others, you may have heard of them, but you didn't know that they were a form of intuition. The first one is excitement in the form of passion. What are you passionate about? For me, it's intuition. I can talk about it all day. I can practice it. I can read about it. I can learn about it. If I'm having a conversation with someone else also in this field, we lose all track of time and finish each other's sentences. That is an intuitive message from your highest self letting you know, pay attention. You're on the right path. And when you get in the habit of following your excitement, following what you're passionate about, the next form of intuition comes, and that is synchronicity. The definition of synchronicity is an improbable, meaningful coincidence. But really, there are no coincidences. Anytime you experience something and you go, wow, what a cool coincidence. No. That is a message from your highest self to pay attention and keep following those breadcrumbs. And what will happen is synchronicities will start appearing in front of you, and it will seem illogical how perfect it was. Synchronicity. The next one is clairalience. Now, clair simply means clear, and alience is smell. Clear smell. I've only experienced this one time, and I was having a conversation with a client about a loved one who had just passed, and I smelled sulfur. And I was on Zoom. I was in my office. Nobody else was there. There was no reason to smell sulfur. But that was an intuitive message letting me know that I had connected to the right energy body, incarnate or not. Clairalience. The next one is clairgustance, clear tasting. I have not experienced this one, but chefs experience this. When they're in their passion, they're creating a menu, they're creating a meal, they need the perfect herb or the perfect wine, they'll taste it. Clairgustance. The next one is psychometry. Now, I use this one every day, psychometry. We have chakras in our hands. I make them as big as pizza pans. And I open up my 6th chakra, the one at the brow. I've got 3 satellite dishes attracting energetic information. It amplifies my clairvoyance. And if you're not there in your intuitive study, you can use this to pick out a watermelon in the store. Or if you work with tarot cards, you can put one hand underneath and one hand on top and know which card is right for you. Or you can be in the vitamin store looking for a supplement and you can run your hand along the vitamins and figure out which one is perfect just for your body. That is psychometry. And the last one is goosebumps. I call them truth bumps because when you experience those, your highest self is letting you know that you have witnessed a truth. Either you've seen it, you've heard it, you've said it. Pay attention, this is true. Truth bumps. As for me today, I am openly sensitive. I have my own little intuitive toolbox with me. It takes me about 5 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening to keep my body healthy and to work on healing the little bit of healing I have left. And I'm happy to say I'm living authentically me. I'm out in the world, I can be here and be okay, and I feel good. And before I conclude my talk, in case anybody in the audience is interested in learning more about a highly sensitive perceiver, there's a book, The Highly Sensitive Person, How to Thrive When the World Overwhelms You. Sounds like me. It's by Elaine Aron. And science is interested in HSPs. They've conducted a bunch of studies on people like me, and they made a documentary out of it. And it's titled Sensitive, The Untold Story. It's on Amazon if you want to learn more. And I'll conclude my talk by leaving you with something to consider. At the Centers for Spiritual Living, I have heard a phrase often. And that phrase is, I am. And what I know now is I am is an acronym for Intuitive Ascending Magician. Intuitive with an uppercase I. Ascending, because we're always ascending in consciousness. During the time you sat here today, your consciousness has ascended. And magician, because if you move through life practicing your intuition, your life will be magical. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.